So I just got done watching the probe, and that sounds dirtier out loud than it did in my head. Hang on. Also known as, hey, didn't the first Megatron have this transformation lock weapon too? The probe focuses on the Maximals discovering a probe launched from Cybertron that is looking for their location. Setting up a tower to communicate with it in Predacon territory, the Predacons are tasked with trying to destroy it before they get a signal out, and they are aided by a transformation lock lens, which proves to be one of the most effective things that the Predacons ever came up with. So, the opening minutes of this episode are set aside to essentially establish what the relationships are like in the Maximals these days. We've gotten through plenty of character episodes. Rat Trap, Dinobot, they've kind of mellowed out. Cheetor is getting a little bit more on the ball. So this is our first chance of seeing them in a little bit of downtime. And now that we have Sentinel as a thing, all 5 Maximals are free to leave the base as needed. Though I believe Rhinox actually stayed aboard the ship for this. But still, we see Cheetor still goofing around. Primal's trying to reel him in. And for some reason, like, Dinobot is taking up this, like senior authority figure role where when they see Rat Trap and Cheetor running off carelessly, they both look at each other and go, again. It's a subtle and funny moment between the two. The plot of the episode, I think, is really, really interesting. I mean, for starters, we're seeing the Maximal team work together in a way we haven't seen them before. Between working everything in on the consoles of the ship just to get a signal out, to building the array, everything was about them trying to work together to do one task, which is not something we've typically seen. It's from this, usually we've seen like episodic things. Rat Trap has to shut down, Rat Trap has to shut down Sentinel. Cheetor has to stop the bomb. Things like that. This is the first time where we've seen a plot where all of the Maximals are required to complete one thing, and it's a very important thing. And it's an interesting concept for an episode, because not only does it tell us that Cybertron is actually looking for this crashed ship, but it also tells us that we've got other things going on besides hunt for Energon, and Megatron has this weapon this week. It makes a more dynamic series when you have a variety in the plot, it's a logical one too. Speaking of the weapon of the week, let's get this out of the way right now. I really like the transformation lock lens. Now, in the G1 series, there was the Transfixatron that stuck everybody in their vehicle mode. This one has the added advantage of forcing the target into their beast mode, rendering them far less capable in a fight. This is well before they gotten to the point where they've adapted to their beast modes. We'll get to that episode eventually. For now, it's a really good device, and it's one of those where you start to wonder, why doesn't Megatron just build that again? Like, that was really effective. It's the weapon of the week syndrome that a lot of TV shows and cartoons especially had. The villain has one big weapon, one thing goes wrong, and then they never revisit the concept again, no matter how close it came to taking over the world or beating the bad guy or beating the good guys. In this case, they're limited to what technology they have aboard their own crashed ships. So whatever the Maximals or the Predacons cook up, it is extremely easy to believe that they just don't have the parts to do anything else. That actually makes sense to me. So I don't mind seeing the weapon of the week trope here. And really, this is pretty early in the show for something this obvious of a weapon. So good to get it out of the way now. And it made the plot more interesting, I feel. Let's see. Aside from just how interesting it is to see the Maximals trying to accomplish something and the Predacons trying to stop it, there's a side story here of Dinobot, because remember, he was originally a Predacon. He helped steal the golden discs. When Cybertron comes for the Maximals, he knows he's not going to be treated the same way as the rest of the crew, no matter what Primal says. But even with that assurance that he would be treated fairly, Dinobot still implies that he doesn't want that. There is something to his code of honor that will not let him skirt the responsibility or ignore his own sins. And it's another aspect of Dinobot we don't get to see very often, aside from, fairness in combat is typically the type of, honor that Dinobot shows. This is a more of an honor of oneself. Like, he is holding himself to his own responsibility and his own crimes. And eventually, we are going to see that, yes, he wants to be remembered for his good deeds and his ill. And however he is judged, that is how he is judged. That's a long way off for this show. But for here, it makes an interesting little twist that they start to go with here, and we'll see it play out a little bit later on in the season. A few side notes here. Megatron's cages are the most faulty security devices I have ever seen in my life. We've seen them. We've seen that there's a vocal command you can use to get out of them. Well, if you're Megatron, but you can copy a voice signal, I'm sure. Rat Trap can easily pick the lock. Tigatron and Cheetor just break them by swinging side to side. It's not exactly hard to get out of a Predacon chamber, apparently. Let's see. We had our first look at Cybertron, like current day, like what Cybertron actually looks like, not a dream sequence. We got our first bit of camaraderie between Dinobot and Rat Trap when they took turns taking pot shots at Scorponok. Also, cool, and not a moment we'll see very often, where they're, like, for once, legitimately friendly with each other. And it's a step forward in their relationship. This is where the love-hate part comes in, and it's what makes them so dynamic. As opposed to that, Cheetor is getting less dynamic, I feel. Cheetor's insults are at a all-time low, with such biting, absolutely scathing insults as mega dumb. Oh, I want to delete this video for saying it. Oh my god. Cheetor's dialogue at this point in the series is always just like a little bit cringe, but I think that's a new low. That is a new low. So, spoiler alert, Megatron actually destroys the array, and the Maximals fail to get any kind of communication out to the probe. That means they win. The Predacons won. They stopped the Maximals cold, the way Maximals usually stop Predacons. I love the inversion to this episode. It's such a twist in the dynamic you don't normally see in, after-school cartoons or Saturday morning cartoons. The bad guys just flat out win. There is no, like, oh, well, at least we saved this person. There is no, like, well, we lost the battle, but the war goes on, etc., etc. Like, we have they think they won. However, no. This is straight up, the Maximals lose. And it makes the Predacons so much more interesting. It gives them a level of threat that they need to be able to maintain. And it lets you believe that they are legitimately stuck, in this really hopeless situation. It is such a good role reversal, and it is very well played out. It's not the most complex of episodes, but there's little nuances here with Dinobot. There's some, we get to see some interrelationships between Maximals here. And we get to see a Megatron who is cunning enough to actually defeat his opponents, unlike other people to carry that name. For those reasons, I'm giving this episode a masterful grade. I love this episode, and I love the twists to it. I love the inversion. I love the setup. It's a unique plot with a unique resolution, and it helps enforce just how trapped they are and how much of a threat Megatron really is. To this point, it's just been plot of the week after plot of the week, but this is the start of showing what Megatron is really capable of. And if he actually needs to put his mind to it and really needs to accomplish a goal, you better make sure he doesn't, because it's going to go badly. So that is my examination of the probe. A little bit longer than usual, but I think this episode warrants it. Tune in tomorrow. We have another episode to go and a long way before we are done with the series. So, yeah, I hope to see you there. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.